Call the meeting of the Raleigh Water Board to order for October 15th. It is 6:54. First item on the agenda is appointment, discuss Forest Ridge project with Mr. Coughlin. Mr. Coughlin, you're on.
Okay, I'll bring you up to speed. This water line is something we've been talking about for over a decade. I think we're getting very close to going ahead and doing it. We have received completely an order of conditions from conservation, which could have been the only two blocking things, so that's done. What my intent is to move ahead with this. We have two of the neighbors where the line will go through, connecting at Kathleen Circle, that have concerns. And I've met with them, and they're asking questions that I don't feel comfortable speaking for the water department to answer their questions. So I think we had reached out to them, and I know Kathy had to get them here to this meeting, and they couldn't, so they're coming to the 29th. I thought in talking with her, it'd be good if I came up, showed you where we are, where we're at, and if you have any questions, I can go over it with you.
And if there's some things we need to answer, we can get the answers before then.
Well, let's find out what the questions are too, if we know.
Okay?
So, yeah.
All right, so order of conditions, I don't think I want to bore you with
No.
that.
As long as Brent's happy, we're happy.
Yes, he's done his due diligence, yes, as he always does. I'll spread this out. I brought a couple copies, I'll leave you a copy and 2 copies. Meridian Engineering has done, Meridian Engineering has done all the work on this thing. Basically, the line that we put in, there's Route 1, there's Forest Ridge, we come up, goes down, and it ends right about here, which you'll see on the plans in more detail, feeding Capco. Off is tapped, there's Keystone's building, and we've tapped into it as we've been building up there now. So the intent is to pick it up down at the bottom of the road, run it right up through to Kathleen Circle. You tap here, or tap there. What Meridian has come up with is, these are just the existing plans of the existing conditions there. Here's the bottom of the access road. Here's Capco Crane Company. This shows you, as you can see, we've got a pile of wetlands on the downhill side of it, which we've addressed all his concerns. This is the top half, which matches, and we are down there, which matches. There's where the easement is to go between the 2 houses and hit Kathleen Circle.
Who owns a chunk of land in the middle?
Okay, what's happened is we have donated that land to the town of Raleigh. Okay, it's about 25 acres here. We go through here, these, right through here, this piece, and all the uphill side was donated to the town of Raleigh, 25 acres that conservation will take it over, the deeds haven't been signed yet, but it's pretty much a done deal. We put an easement in their deed. You'll have an easement up here, which I can get you a copy of that. You'll have an easement here, and there's an existing easement here.
And where is the line? I just don't know.
So whose easement is this? Was this the town? Did that easement come with the development of?
It came with the development there, okay? That easement is what they're having a problem with, okay? Now, what they told me is we don't object to the water line, because they sat at the various meetings where we're gonna improve pressure, better quality of water, the fire department. They just wanna know what their rights are gonna be, what we're gonna do if there's a break right there, who's gonna fix it, how's it gonna be taken care of. If indeed we screw up the tap out here and, we're done and that blows, who's gonna take care of that? those are the kind of questions that they're gonna ask. They're gonna ask too, when the water line goes in, who's gonna inspect it? I've told them that we'll have Meridian, is gonna have to do an as-built, oversee it going in. And I said, to the best of my knowledge, the Raleigh Water Department will oversee it. They're worried about.
So we always do, right?
But I think they gotta hear it from you guys, you know?
Absolutely.
And then they're worried about, well, we're gonna put germs all up in their water up there, so, you know, they just have some
Yeah,
legitimate concerns.
Number one, the DEP wouldn't let that happen.
Yeah.
And
We'd
we
get
would,
fined.
No.
we can't turn it on until it clears all of the regulations.
I understand, but they look at me and they're saying, why is this guy doing this? What's his gain here? The only reason he's doing it because he wants to make a buck, so who's gonna control him? They didn't say that to me, they've been very nice to me, but they've got concerns, which
Right,
I
that's
think,
suspicious.
yeah,
Well,
that's all.
ultimately, John, I think we supported this because you wanted to put in more buildings up in the industrial park, right?
Right.
Good.
So, what this will do, and I've explained that to them. Right now, just to back up a little bit, let me just go back here, I won't belabor this because you probably all know about it. Boom, boom, boom. Right there, we have a pump house. And the whole reason the brick building was built was to put in a pump to build up the pressure here. We've had a fire engineer look at it, he's already sized a pump that can go in there. The pipe is there, we put the pump in, and we're probably talking $175,000, $190,000 to put the pump in. He tells us once the pump goes in, he can build up enough pressure to handle our needs up here for normal use. Now, if we wanna put a dynamite factory up there or a paint factory, that isn't gonna happen, which we're not gonna do anyways. So my point has always been, that was the only reason we built this building down below. We don't need the pump, if we put the loop here, we get more water pressure than we will ever get from the pump as a result of looping the water, one. Number two, and the other thing, it just isn't the initial cost of the pump, we're gonna have yearly inspections, we're gonna have somebody on the call for it, and so it just goes on and on.
It could be a maintenance nightmare.
Well, yeah, I just had, again, just questions of ignorance, I'm not an engineer.
Yeah.
Why, and Mark, I'm sure you can explain it because you know this stuff, but why connecting to the other part makes it better?
Well, the easiest way to explain it,
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
you have one pipe going this way, right?
Right, there's a dead end right
It can carry so many gallons per minute volume. You have to look more at volume than you have to look at pressure.
Okay.
Now you're coming from the other end, you got water coming, another whole bunch of volume coming the other way.
Oh, so it's gonna go in two
So,
directions?
Two directions.
Oh, I thought
So
it was
you got,
all
so you
one.
get water coming down Route 1 from the tank, or from Kathleen Circle off of Havel Street down in, so you get it coming from two different directions. What that does is if for some reason there's a break here,
Yeah.
you still get your volume coming from here, Kathleen Circle, and vice versa. The other thing is the big advantage for us as the town of Raleigh Water Department, we have a spot on Havel Street, if we get a leak, we've pretty much shut down the whole town, because there's no way of bypassing that. This will take care of that problem. If you read through our reports that we had the engineers do, they wanted to put a double main down in that section of Havel Street just because of this. This will eliminate having to do that.
Yeah, okay.
The other thing, for what it's worth, and we dig back in the archives, when we were originally going down this route, we paid for it, but we used whoever was doing it that, I don't know, Weston, Sampson, whoever it was, the
Yeah.
engineering.
Might even have been Haley and Ward back then.
I think it might have been him, they did all the calcs, so, I mean, this isn't something somebody's pulling
No.
out of the back of their head, they've come up with.
This has been in the works for over 20 years.
Yeah, so, that's what it is. All right, so, let me kinda carry
So
on.
I just want to verify that it's these two houses where the easement goes in between them?
That's exactly right, okay? And they're both concerned, and those are the two people that we're gonna bring to the meeting next week, that we can air it out and listen to all the concerns. Now, my attorney has told us we have a good easement here, okay, to go through with it. However, they've kinda said no uncertain terms, if they're not satisfied, they're gonna put a stop to it. And I'm not gonna get involved in a protracted court case with these guys, whether we have the right to the easement or not, when I think it can be handled pretty easily here. So far, everybody is kinda really bought into it. This gives you a better picture. You take this piece right here, it's a total of 35 acres. What we did, from right here to here to here to here, that's what was donated to the town. This accomplished a lot of things. They were, well, conservation was, and a few other people. They were excited because it ties into your hill complex up there, number one. Number two, it gave them a pathway to, when we originally started here, this land down here we deeded to them. So what they have is a continuous loop. The other thing that it does, it gives them, it's about a 450-foot buffer here. It belongs to the town, so, which means whatever we develop down here, and I don't know what we're gonna develop, whatever we develop, we can't touch it, so it gives Kathleen Circle, gives them a good buffer, so.
And you go back on the history of this, what started all the problems here, the way I understand it, before Mr. Coughlin, is somebody wanted to put a 40B
right here,
development in here.
right here.
And it was out behind, and that's what got all the neighbors up in arms.
That's what got them all stroked, and there's
Yeah.
a lot of neighbors that have been living up this. They were there when that happened, and then the new neighbors that come in, they get the war stories from them. And he was gonna put a 40B in here, and so, that's what got them all juiced up, that they were gonna have 282 low-income houses going in here, low-income housing units, and they were gonna come through their road, so.
But
So
now that
is
can't
there-
happen because it's all
Because of the-
conservation land?
Yeah.
Yes.
We have deeded this over, so it isn't even us telling the abutters or anybody that we'll never do nothing there. The town of Raleigh owns it now, we never can do nothing, they
Right.
own it,
Yeah.
so. That satisfied a lot of them, so.
Can I just ask a dumb question?
Yeah.
If they are, threatening lawsuits or anything else about.
No, wait a minute, I don't wanna, they have not, they
Oh,
did very
okay.
good to me, but I'm thinking if we don't answer all their questions, we'll start the water line, and one of them, if they're not satisfied with what they're hearing,
I think we can satisfy all the
Yeah.
questions.
Well, I was gonna say, what keeps you from just taking a right hook or doing a big loop around them? If that other.
I can't, because
You have to get to Kathleen Circle.
we gotta get to Kathleen Circle
Is
to
it
tie in.
end, is it end right there?
What's that?
Like those three properties, is that the end?
No, that goes all
It's a
around.
circle, it goes further up,
Right,
further
that's what
up.
I'm saying, what if you just.
There's all houses all around here.
What if you just went, you have
Yeah.
you
Yeah, no matter what you do, you're gonna
need
hit
another reason. I
You
get it,
need,
I get it.
you
That's
need
where the
another
easement goes.
easement, that's why the easement was evidently put there. And the other thing that muddies up the water, Kathleen Circle is not a town-accepted road,
Mhm. But the other ones are now.
so, I don't know.
And I think
So
the
is that-
reason that
is
they
that
didn't
clear?
wanna do it is because they were still afraid of the 40B here.
Right, that goes away now, and all the other neighbors are very happy up there. It's these two guys that seem to have a
Right, well,
problem.
And it's
They're
going right
ones
through their
that-
property, so I understand they'd have some
Yeah.
questions.
So do they want the town to accept the road now?
Half of them, because we went through all the because what we did, we put this, as, first off, when we own all of this in here. We bought this, it was 48 acres. This was zoned residential. We had to go before the town to take this piece that we kept and get it zoned commercial. So we had to get a zoning change from the
Mhm.
town.
That was a zoning change we just did.
Yeah, and part of the caveat for us getting the zoning change and getting everybody on board with it was the fact that they got all this given to them.
That's why,
It's surrounded by the conservation
Yeah.
stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a pretty good deal.
It's good for everybody.
yeah.
No, no, the zoning
And,
thing,
and I think, this is just one opinion, but I think we should take responsibility once it gets off of his property, to Kathleen, just as to our advantage to maintain it.
Yeah, well, it'd be, yeah, it's a connecting. it's
Well,
a-
I think that's what they're gonna wanna hear from you,
Yeah, I
because
mean, that's-
we go ahead and we throw the line in, I think we can say to them,
Mhm.
Meridian's gonna be inspecting it, the water department will be inspecting to get a good water line. What happens 8 months from now if that thing blows up? Whose fault,
Mhm.
who is it?
And
So
we
for
own-
precedence,
we
Tim-
own it.
Oh,
Sorry, I think then we owe, once we assume responsibility for it, if something adverse occurs, then it's on him.
Well, I guess what's, my question is, and I support that, but I guess, I just wanna make sure that I know, but, so, we've got Kathleen Circle, we're gonna have is it an 8-inch main coming out, or a 6-inch?
What we're proposing is an 8-inch.
An 8-inch,
Yeah.
okay, so we're gonna have an 8-inch
I think it's an even there, but I'm not
pipe
100%
coming out of
sure.
that, going up into your your industrial park, right?
Yeah,
So, excuse me.
Mhm.
So the mains in the streets we own, correct?
Yeah, because
The
nobody else,
mains we own.
right,
So just because this is going across an easement, we really kind of own that main until it goes.
yeah, because if something
To where
happens
we
on
deliver
Kathleen
to a
Circle,
building.
we're gonna have to fix it.
well, if it happened now at Kathleen Circle, say tonight a pipe bust on Kathleen Circle,
They'll be out there fixing it.
yeah.
Right. So I guess it goes back to my observation is that, so that's to me yet another main going up into a subdivision. And where we own is from Kathleen Circle up to Route 1. And people connect to that main. And so you own from the main to your building.
Well,
Don't we call that the curb stop?
I don't know, you could make a case that our road going in there, Forest Ridge Drive, is a private road. We own it, we plow it, we're
Mhm.
responsible for the streetlights, everything, all of that, that's on us. Now,
But that's our water main, under the ground, right?
we put the water main in when we did this down into here.
Mhm.
So, I mean, a case could be made that, and my thought would be that if we had a problem with the line after it leaves Route 1, we
Mhm.
tap into Route 1 and go up there, that'd be our problem. You follow me?
Yeah,
So it,
I know if you're gonna put the pump in, there's gonna be paperwork saying who's responsible for maintaining and,
oh, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
I've
it would
always
be-
kind
it'd
of,
be clear,
I've always gone under the guise that once we leave Route 1, we own it, because it's a private road.
it's the same as Citrus Bay Glass.
Yeah, all this stuff.
I mean, we're responsible for the water quality going in it, but he fixes anything remember we had the big discussion about
Yeah.
how a certain superintendent wanted to charge
Yeah.
enormous amount of money to,
I sat at that meeting with Sandy Patrick and was here and
yeah,
something
everybody
else.
here.
Yeah,
So for this situation though, so if that's the case, from the Kathleen Circle to,
Well, we would own this, as I understand.
but why
you
wouldn't
would,
we
no,
own this?
there's the town's land,
I would say from the town land to
from the
Kathleen.
town's land to there, which,
Okay.
I could live with that.
Yeah,
What
from
you'll
where the
see
town
here.
land is,
Yeah.
from when it takes off of his property,
So if it breaks on the town land, we fix it.
yeah,
Breaks on your land, you fix it.
we
and it
fix
breaks
it.
in the
We'll help
easement,
you, but,
in the easement, we'll fix it.
yes.
That's what they're gonna wanna hear from
Yeah.
you, and they're gonna wanna know, I think, I'm not speaking for them, but I think that would go a long way. It isn't Coughlin guaranteed, it's the town of
Mhm.
Raleigh guaranteed it. So, let me get you
We are essentially
We
overseeing
would fix it because it's public health.
all
Exactly.
the construction.
You,
We just own responsibility for fixing stuff from here
right.
to there.
Everything that we've done to date in any of our buildings, the medical center up here, all of this, we've got inspections from the town of Raleigh, and all the way.
Been doing this as long as I can remember.
Yeah, so we've been doing that.
You put a service into your house, these guys inspect it.
But here's where I think, here you are, there's your easement on Kathleen Circle, see it? That's where the water line's gonna go, and it's gonna tap into their line out
Mhm.
there. Here's the land that we've given the town, right here. So I would say, there's our land down below, okay, 10 acres. When we hit this point, it's this problem with the water line from here back to Route 1, I think it's on Gateway, I think if there's a problem from here to there will be the
I
town.
don't know what your plans are, but I would suggest a 8-inch inline gate right here.
We can do that, I don't think it shows that on there, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to leave
Yeah,
these, so you
I don't know what
guys
you
can
think,
look
Bob,
at
but
it.
that's what I would think.
Yeah, we don't,
And then we'll use
Yeah.
that as a marker. Anything on the other side of that gate, we take care of, and on one side, you take care of.
Here you see where it is. We get, yeah, okay, hold on one second, let me go back.
And if worse comes, if push comes to shove, we're gonna fix it, just for the fact that we want to fix it.
yeah.
And
Well,
we'll
they're,
deal with the
they're like any,
ramifications of it afterwards.
they're like any other privately owned infrastructure. If they have a leak, we shut them off until it's fixed.
Mhm.
So,
Here's the existing road, there's our existing line. This is where we're gonna tap in down there. Here's Capco right there. We come through here, takes a turn here, goes straight up. And a lot of the layout of this water line was done to appease your conservation
Yeah.
commission, which they added a few more bucks to it.
We're gonna save you money, so you don't have to do a pump.
It's obviously a right, that's crazy right-hand turn.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, is it
Why?
from,
Okay,
Sometimes you
from
just
long
don't
and off,
have.
is that okay to have 90
well,
degrees?
this, to get to where these plans, to where they are, which we finally got approval, was an excruciating deal.
If you look, they're not exactly 90 degrees.
Oh, okay, the other ones.
They gotta be 45.
So,
Okay.
we come up to here, there's where we cross the town line,
Mhm.
right here, boom, that's where we come out to Kathleen Circle.
Mhm.
And he gives you the cuts, which you wanna look at, and anything that you see you wanna change, we can do. So,
So this is actually good, I mean, if we can allay their concerns, it's gonna be better for them, because if we ever have anything on Havel Street, they won't be out of water for.
Mhm. And this'll actually make their water cleaner, because the water now is kinda stagnant in that circle.
right.
It'll make it turn different, better flow.
Good.
And like I said, I don't know what Bob thinks, but if we had a gate, right, so we know, so there's no doubt about it, at this side of the gate, you take care of them, that side of the gate,
that's fine.
yeah.
I mean, we own the in my mind, we own the responsibility of the lines from Route 1 to where they end right now. And we're gonna add this, hit the town land, and then it would be yours.
So are we getting issues or complaints from Kathleen Circle on water quality?
No,
Very, very few, if any.
did you say yes, Bob?
No, I said very few, if any.
Yeah, I
I
haven't,
mean, it's,
I haven't. had any.
since we've built a new water treatment facility, it's pretty non-existent now.
Right. But they seem to be more anxious.
Well, they want the landscaping to, they're concerned about what it's going to look like.
Well, won't you be responsible for putting?
That will be me, and
Yeah.
when we sit at the meeting, and you'll be here, and we can even put it in, it does show in the drawings, we're gonna replicate everything, put it back, we're gonna cut it to Kathleen
Yeah.
Circle, we're gonna have to patch that, so, I mean, it's all on the plans, but I'm more than happy to pick up my end of it, I just don't wanna speak for the water department to these people.
And of course, you wanna maintain that property where the right-of-way is, in case you have to get in there to take care of it.
Right,
I mean, you don't want
Well,
overgrowth from growing up and
Well,
all
it's just
kinds of
lawn.
stuff.
Access.
it's just lawn now, but that would be more something you'd say, because
Yeah.
once the water line goes in, you're gonna own it to the town.
Mhm.
with
Yeah,
what
so
we're
there's
saying
some,
there.
so we'd have to, this is on town property, we'd have to keep this clear.
That's right. Just the right of way, just where the pipe is.
Yeah, right now, if you read the documents, and you can get a headache reading the order of conditions, but we're gonna go in with the water lines, we're gonna stump it, we're gonna remove the stumps off site, we're gonna grade and level it, and we're gonna grass it afterwards. We have to leave the silt sock is gonna run, there's approximately 2,300 linear feet from start to
Mhm.
finish of water line. Silt sock's gonna run all the way up, it's gotta stay intact till we go through 2 growing seasons.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be all grass.
Mhm.
Okay. Good. So we'll just answer their questions and let
Yeah.
them ask, or we can just
I
kinda
mean,
talk
Yeah,
about
I
it
mean,
first.
it's, you know, I mean, you know, we basically are only responsible for having where the tie-in is right now and so forth. And, you know, seems to have done a really good job on the plans. We're gonna have plans, we're gonna oversee it. And, you know, it's for their benefit as well as anybody else.
I think it's important that they
Mhm.
think it isn't us
Well,
knowing.
what
that
it
it's you.
is things that we take for granted because we know that's gonna happen. They don't understand because
Right.
they've been involved in it, so.
I tried to explain to them at one of my meetings, I said, everything that we've done
Yeah.
to date, I says, everything gets inspected by the water department. So they said, well, if it's yours, how can I tell you what to do? I said, the guy that owns the gold rules, he'll just shut the water off and we
Yeah.
won't get no water.
So they have no
Exactly.
experience in development, that's
Yeah.
all. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's- you do the work and our guys stand there watching,
Yep.
make sure it's.
I inspected a lot of water mains in the 5 years that I worked for the water department,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, so,
including 133, the whole length that they fixed.
but like I say, I'm belaboring this point, I think they have to hear it from you, this board,
Absolutely.
because you're an authority, and that's what they kept saying, I gotta speak to somebody that's an authority, so.
Yeah.
I said, well, I'm not telling you a lie, but,
So that we couldn't have done it in meetings.
And-
So is
well, you
there,
were at the meeting, so didn't you guys come to the meeting? When
I
we-
came to some of the first ones
Yeah,
when they were talking about the zoning change.
yeah. But by the way, that zoning change, there was a lot of zoning changes, a lot of them got blown out of the water at the town meeting, this one,
Oh, yeah.
this went through.
That was an ugly town meeting.
Yeah, but this went through,
Because it was good for the town and good for the locals.
I thought we were gonna get painted, I thought we were gonna get painted with the same brush.
no.
It didn't work out
The
well.
presentation was different.
Yeah. So that's my story, gentlemen, ladies.
So let me just ask, so this is steel treatment in here? So what are the other processes that are, because I noticed that there's sewers.
Okay, well, what you have right here is you got Capco, they make frames there, they're a steel fabricator. Keystone has a guy by the name of Burke owns this building, okay? Back up a little bit, because this gets further convoluted. Back when I put this road in the early 2000s, I kind of ran out of money, because the intent was never to sell anything. So what I did, to get some cash, I condominiumized this lot. I sold it to Capco and I sold it to a guy named Burke. We retained the last lot 4C, because part of the easement deal, I had to get these guys to sign off on it, which they did for the water line to go through. They didn't have a problem, so to answer your question, he does steel fabrication. Burke, the guy that owned it, I don't know what he did, but he had some problems. He now rents it out to a sheet metal HVAC
The
company.
company that put our
Dry air.
HVAC.
Dry air.
Dry air.
Dry,
Yeah.
yeah,
All
dry
right.
air.
So they'll have refrigerants, right, stored? I just wanna make sure that we know that there's safety.
Alright, back up to this. Capco is your standard welding shop. What he would have in there, oxygen, acetylene, gasoline maybe, he'd have that there. Now,
No acid.
to the best of my knowledge, I'll double check with him if that's an issue. Keystone is an HVAC contractor. Sheet metal, but he would have Freon and things like that, I imagine, for refrigeration stored up there.
Bernie, that's not our bailiwick though.
Well, the issue is that they've got, I saw that there's a sewer pipe that runs over.
No, what you have, and you picked up on it, is Lot 4 has a communal septic system. Fantastic. Right here. Okay. Now,
Communal meaning for your buildings, all these buildings.
this building, and a future building that could be built, right up here, right here,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah.
So the septic system is down here at the end of the road, it's a big huge septic system.
Okay,
We're gonna cross over it with the water line, we have to encase it in concrete if we go over the septic. And that's the detail that Meridian's come up with.
okay.
We think we're not even gonna hit it, but Meridian threw the note in there, in case we do,
Right.
it's covered, and
All right,
we'll just take the line and we'll encase it in concrete
Right.
for that area.
all right. So it's for septic, well, still not, still worthwhile noting where it is and taking the obvious precautions.
Oh, yeah, we definitely will, because we don't wanna screw up the foul up the septic system.
Right.
I got 2 copies, would you need more than that?
No.
I'll leave these for you,
Yeah,
look
okay.
them
Yeah,
over.
we'll put them with the rest of yours.
And
We still have
anything
everything.
you see,
Yep.
you can ask. All right?
Excellent.
That's
Thank
my
you very
story,
much.
gentlemen.
Thanks, John.
Okay, John.
Straightforwardness.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna
Yeah.
let you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening, all right?
Yeah,
Thank you for all your help, too.
Thank you, John, my pleasure.
You're always very pleasant. All right, thank you, and
Take it
we'll,
easy.
Next time I'll have a chair up there.
huh?
Next time I'll have a chair
Well,
closer to the
that's fine,
table.
throw my hip up. So we'll bring them on the 25th, you're gonna call them?
29th.
29th, and we'll go from there.
Right, okay.
All right, all good, thank you.
Should we make a
Bye-bye.
resolution, if we need to make a resolution, a vote to say that, just to allay their concerns, that, the town will own from the cut to the street, that we will, that's the water department's
Mhm.
Will I make a motion now?
responsibility.
Or when they're here?
Maybe when they hear that way,
They can hear it and see it.
yeah.
yeah,
I'm just confirming with you, Mark,
yeah,
beforehand.
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, so we'll do that when they hear, and personally, if I was a resident, I'd be much happier hearing that we're telling you from here to there, on that easement, we got it,
Mhm.
you know?
Okay,
We should encourage the people to listen to
Yes.
the video
Right, that's
of
what-
this
yeah, we
meeting
will.
so that they,
Even if they don't show up, we'll make the vote, we'll do it, we'll just make things right,
Right. Right.
so, okay.
It was pretty much cut and dried anyway.
Yeah, I think like we said earlier too, we deal with this stuff all the time, between your water experience, and Bernie going to town things. I was on the board of health before this,
Yeah.
seen and done a lot of these things.
And when they,
well, he seems a straight shooter and that makes a huge, huge difference.
yeah,
Yeah.
Nice, good. Past performance is indicative of future performance, it's not like an investment.
okay. Next thing, Bernie, you're on. Discuss job descriptions.
Ah, so Bob and I went to the personnel board meeting. We assumed it was the follow-up from the previous meeting, except that Mo had not been at the previous meeting, so we were kind of back. So we had to recover pre-existing ground, which in my mind then triggered the ongoing concern that Deb has, which is whatever changes we make have to be the subject to negotiations with the union. So there's still an issue, and correct me if I'm misinterpreting this, Paul, there's still an issue of the principle that we're trying to go towards, which they still seem to be not on board with. So we showed them what the changes they had last requested, which was to make sure that the primary operator position is a single position. That we won't have, even though some people may be qualified, we will not appoint them to a primary operator position or that equivalent grade level, because we are only going to be staffed for one of those positions. So people can achieve different grade levels up to grade 9 by simply taking additional exams and getting their full licenses. But beyond that, there's only one person.
Well, you can't have more than one chief.
There's only one Rob, there's only one formerly Bob going
And
forward.
everybody else
So
is
that's-
under them.
So that's the change that Rob and Bob and I kind of reworked and we made changes in this document.
Did you say beyond grade 9? I'm sorry.
Beyond grade 9.
9,
Grade 9 is, you're still the secondary operator.
no matter how many licenses you obtain after that.
Right. We're not incenting them by increasing their pay based upon those, them doing that. But they would be qualified if an operator 1 position opened up, then they would be qualified to move up.
Take a step up.
So you can't step up into a position that's not available.
Right.
Yeah, and I made that point, that,
Mhm.
you know, that they would have to have an opening in order for them to move up.
So they were still concerned because what we're doing is allowing our employees who are currently grade 5 through grade 9, through grade 8, to get basically automatic promotions based upon them achieving the next level qualification. There still seemed to be resistance to that, and they wanted to then, and this is where it got really complicated from my perspective, they then wanted to go from pay grade increases to putting in stipends. Now, Bob pointed out that they do that in Rochester and in other places, but I don't know what that means in terms of these pay grades. At the moment, there's no difference between the job that we expect a grade 7, grade 8, and grade 9 person to be doing, because they're all secondary operators. And the secondary
Right.
operator job is the secondary operator job. There's no way we can differentiate.
I'm not against the stipend idea.
But we would have
That
to,
way you get compensated,
Right.
that's how you get compensated for your increased licenses.
Right.
now, if we
But
were,
then, if that logic holds, then we stop at grade 7 and then show up, then our next position, because then you move back to a position-oriented job career ladder. So you'd have a grade 7 position and you'd have a grade 10 position. Because you then, we don't have a
That's
grade.
not abnormal in other town departments.
Well,
And I-
perhaps, but
I mean,
What we-
they jump,
Right.
in the fire department, we jump grades.
right. But what I'm suggesting is that if you do the stipend, then the stipend is not a one-time stipend. It's basically, it's a step increase. So it's essentially the same as the salary grade increase.
Yeah.
There's no meaningful difference, but it sounded like when we were talking about it, the stipend.
Doesn't get added into your overtime.
So it's a cheaper way for the town?
It's a cheaper way for the town.
Yeah, but I don't think they're calculating that. I
You
mean,
don't?
I don't think, no, I don't.
the second thing that they were worried about was how do we control as far as them moving up a grade. They want to know how we are going to determine that they're qualified to do that. In other words, they want to know, they're going to want to have some way of,
I think that's pretty cut and dry.
well,
The
I
state
know,
issues your
right,
licensing.
but this is for them. They want to make sure that
Right.
they're.
They don't want this situation of having a person who's currently at grade 7, they get additional licenses, and they feel entitled then to move to grade 8, even though we think they're not a very good performer. And that was their issue.
Yeah.
And so we basically say, well, the licensing process requires us to recommend the person. It requires both the superintendent and the board to say this person is performing effectively at a suitable level for the
And
next level.
In that they're qualified, but as I explained to them, that they have to meet the EP regulations as far as qualifications by their getting an OIT prior to their full license, which may include anywhere between 2 to 4 years of experience.
And they should have been weeded out by then if there's an issue.
Yeah, it's on us, it's on the management at that point to basically say if the person isn't
Right.
performing effectively, then they're not performing
And
effectively.
they're not gonna, I believe they have to get sign-offs now, don't they, for your time? Do you have to sign off for that?
Mhm.
Well,
Yes.
additionally, we've got a track record of addressing non-performance.
Right. Now, the,
Standing up and-
the-
It's all paper trail.
right, the thing that I could see that this step program, the way we have it set up right now, is when you do a hire. I mean, if you're gonna hire a person who already has a grade 2 treatment, grade 1 distribution, then they should actually fall into our criteria here and be put in as a grade 8 or 7, because we're getting them with the licenses already. And,
Well,
you
I
know,
think what they don't understand is people that to fit these positions that we have open now,
Mhm.
the one that Bob just left, we have to get somebody that is already working in a water department.
Right.
Yep.
That already has XYZ benefits, already has XYZ years in service. So we have to be able to meet that or exceed it
Yep.
to
Right.
entice them to come over.
Right.
And some reason they don't seem to get that.
well, I also explained to them that in the event that we don't do something and we can't get help, then they're gonna be looking at DEP coming down on us for not having, the proper people and so forth, and operators and stuff. And you're gonna be looking at outsourcing it at a much higher rate.
Yeah, it's gonna cost us.
I mean, we've already had to do that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Small water systems.
Right.
Right.
But I mean on a permanent basis,
Mhm.
because we just don't,
We'll have to go to a company and hire somebody at $100 an hour or whatever they
and
charge.
DEP can do that without even batting an eyelash,
Yeah, so we'd be pushed into contract help again.
right?
Mhm.
So,
That's not what we want.
no.
And there goes the water rates again.
So,
You start hiring contract.
yeah, no, I understand, we don't
They're
want
going back
to do
up.
that, we don't want to do that.
But the thing is that I think that we need to, they had questions that we need to address. And then, I think that a lot of the confusion is between, the positions we have and the conditions and qualifications they must meet for the state. So I think we gotta,
Did you have the paperwork to show what each license entails and the number of hours and the test that has to be taken?
Yeah, no, we didn't.
Briefly summarized on the second
Right.
page here.
Because I happen to have gone through it, so I know
Mhm.
what it
Right.
entails.
Right.
But I didn't pull the actual write-up that's in the DP documents. But they wanted some wording added at the back, like an addendum to the job descriptions, which lays those steps out. And so basically it's setting up the expectations. So it's notifying an employee that it's not simply a case of you having passed an exam and spent time in the position.
Mhm.
It has to be confirmed and affirmed by the supervisor and the board
Mhm.
that the performance has been up to par, basically.
Right.
And then that raised the issue about performance reviews, and I don't know where we stand on performance reviews. So
Well, they're
basically non-existent from
well,
my
for now,
perspective.
yeah. Now we probably should get into some type of evaluation process. I mean, that was another way that the town could control your 2%, 3% through your contract, is that you had to have a good performance evaluation. And if you flunked the evaluation, then you didn't receive your annual increase.
Maybe you need to have that day 2 item, but day one, it's just gonna get this, and then we'll
Yeah.
get to the reviews.
Yeah, we still got,
Great.
I think we still got a bit of work to do with it, but it's hard working between two boards without input from both. You know, I mean, that's one thing I can see, you know,
I still say we need a joint meeting, but
Right.
they don't want anything to do with it.
yeah.
Why? Okay.
Well, you got people that are volunteering their time, I guess, but,
Just like this?
yeah, yeah.
So we have, the next meeting is
29.
not our next meeting, their next meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What if we just have a vote to have what if a meeting?
Well, that was another issue that had, that we hadn't been, that the board hadn't looked at it, approved it, voted on it too, before we went there, but, I mean, yeah, even if we had voted on it, the questions still have arisen that did.
Yeah.
So, but, I mean, I think that we, you know, and then we've got the union to deal with and to, you know, to approve it.
So,
On to the next meeting.
well, it's on to the next meeting. I think what we should do before then, next meeting, which I think is the 12th, right?
I think so, yeah, something like that.
So they've got a meeting before that, but I don't think, I'm not gonna have enough time to get to it, nor will we have enough time to basically vote on
Right.
it, because what we still need to do is make kind of like minor modifications on the individual job descriptions that are tied to the pay grades, which is what I mean, it's exactly, all the
So-
wording is gonna be exactly the same,
Can you
except,
send us out the job descriptions and what needs to be changed?
no,
The real ones. Whatever that is.
right, and we can send you the things that, I'm not quite sure I understood. My plan was to make the changes and then send the changes to you, so that
Mhm.
you can see
Right.
what the changes are.
Mhm.
They're essentially because we
Even if
didn't,
you just put a line through what it was and then what you changed it to, so we can actually,
Yeah, you don't wanna have a
See what you change.
whiteout
well, we
situation.
had basically moved to a job description for the secondary operator and the primary operator, and allowed the room for the grades,
Mhm.
pay grades to be based on the requirements. They want a job description for each of these salary grades, which is basically this
Copy and paste.
Copy and paste
Mhm.
with one change. So, but that's, I mean, and I can understand, because what they're basically gonna do is, you know, if we have a position open and they say, well, we're gonna look at this as a grade 8 position, or we've got a grade 8 qualified candidate, here's the job description for the grade.
Mhm.
Right.
And everything ties together, as opposed
And you
to
have
a little matrix.
the
on
requirements
job
with
description.
the licenses are, basically that's all it's changing.
Yeah.
It's the
It's the
requirements for the
requirements,
licenses,
yes, exactly.
whether they be in
And as far as
training
the
or-
stipends go, unless they're coming in like Keith, in learning from the bottom up, if you get a guy who's come in with grade 2 licenses, you only got grade 3, and that's one stipend.
No, the notion of a stipend just strikes me as
Mhm.
being,
I'm not a big fan of stipends, but
it's like
don't have
putting
it over
putting
either.
another layer of complexity on something
Mhm.
which is already sufficiently complex. And what we really
Well,
want to do is allow the employee to feel as though they're making progress,
Mhm.
and that they know how to move forward. So that leaves,
Go back
One
to,
open
back to the
issue.
way it was when I worked here, is, once I got I was required to have my distribution license. Once I got that license, I got a pay raise.
yeah, I mean, kind of like,
It's the same thing.
it's a duh kind of thing, it's
It
obvious.
gives you an incentive to work towards it.
So the open issue is with Rob, who's stepped out, he's maxed out on his
Mhm.
steps. And the thing that I would like to see happen and would recommend is that once he gets his grade 3 full distribution, he would get, as this system indicates, he would get bumped up to the next level and then could then proceed, and he wouldn't be stepped out. Because if you're stepped out,
Tell me about it, I'm stepped out.
if you're stepped out, then it's kind of like, it just feels yucky. There's
But he
no,
wants
there's
the
no,
younger guys that come up behind me.
yes, it's compression.
Mhm.
So anyway, that's the operational consequences of holding the system the way it is with stipends, because then you're just gonna get stuck. And there's no movement. And the pay system is such that the actual increments, step by step, are minimal. They're kind of almost like insulting.
Well, I give the argument for me.
I'm not supposed to be in these discussions.
All right,
You have an opinion?
I'm just still curious as to why we can't all get together, two boards in one meeting, because this is just, the go-between is just, I don't understand the.
the dynamic isn't gonna,
Yeah.
the dynamic isn't gonna work.
But
Because-
wouldn't that be more
because they-
efficient and effective and mature?
If we can kind of, can concretize it and basically say, this is what we want, and this is, we believe that the union will accept it, then they won't have any choice. At the moment, they all have their own kind of view of it, so Deb and Amy are thinking about it from job hires point of view, which is legitimate, but it really isn't our issue. Our issue is luring people, attracting people, and keeping
Right.
people.
So all the more reason why I would think that would all be more effective to meet together. So we can go back and forth instead of having this, sidestepping.
How long have you been in town government?
I'm sorry.
There's no one.
2 years.
I'm sorry, I'm getting my you're fresh. There's a lot of things that happen that you kind of go,
Yeah.
All right,
very legitimate question.
Still don't have an answer.
You all set with that?
I think so.
Bob, you're on.
I'm on, okay.
You got anything?
Not really. I mean, we're still, the valve project at the bottom of, the tank road there is, coming along. Now
I
that
see they put
they've
the
got,
silt
they
sock
got the
in.
silt socks in, and we had to wait for the conservation person to come in, okay it. And then from there, we're gonna be moving forward.
So is Cadell giving you a start date yet, or?
No, and I believe that we're going to have a walkthrough meeting, once at the, we meet with Brent on the, conservation part of it. And then we'll find out what's going on.
Have we already planned that out, conservation stuff, it's bearings and stuff?
Well, he's told them what they need, and now he's got to inspect it to make sure it's gonna work, that it's installed properly, and so forth. I can believe that he'll be keeping tabs on it for silt and so forth. Looks like they're gonna have a silt bag there to pump the water out of the trenches and stuff through the silt bag, which will collect it, and then the water runs off. So, but, talking with Cardillo, he was stating it would probably be at least a week and a half, they'd be finished. So hopefully
Wow.
it works that way.
So we have all the hardware that they're gonna need?
It's all,
It's all
that's all
included
spec'd out,
Yeah,
it's all included in the
I
project.
hopefully.
No, but I mean, has it been bought in stock, basically?
I couldn't tell you that.
Most waterworks places have plenty of that stuff in
Yeah.
stock.
Yeah.
It's stuff that's used all the time.
It's gonna be an interesting project. It's a lot of,
I'm just interested to see what they're gonna find.
I'd like to see a before and after picture.
You
well,
can
we take
with
pictures.
it.
I take pictures now all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't post them because,
No.
but we have them for our records and stuff.
And speaking of the hill, going to, the phone company has done some repair work to the road.
Mhm.
I haven't
Yeah.
been up it, I know you.
Yeah, I went up, it's all right.
I know I got
We
it.
still gotta do some more grading and so forth to, there's still got to be some work done on the road to get the water to run off before it builds up and ends up at the bottom.
I would say probably spring we're talking.
Yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
do have money in the budget, and
Yeah.
the selectmen have money in their budget,
Right.
we each win halves,
Mhm.
we should be able to.
But the road's been, the road has, knock on wood, been holding up very well with some of the rain that we've had. We've had some
We'll see
3-inch
how it- we'll see how it
rainstorms and
works
stuff.
tomorrow night.
Right, but there again, the more the water travels down the road, the deeper and wider that some of the little trenches get to, but.
Right, T-Mobile is going up there again, they're
Mhm.
redoing Mast as well, so,
They're all up there working, Brady. Spring just got
Yeah.
done.
oh, okay.
That's who was up there when I was up there, when I found the road was bad.
Yeah. But the more they chew it up, loosen it up,
Yeah,
it's getting
no,
bad.
they should have been some
Yeah.
hard, s- basically cement or something in there to kind of get the wood to the sides. What about the flushing, where?
They're gonna be starting that on
Tuesday.
Tuesday at night. And we've already posted all of the locations, the roads and so forth, that they're gonna be doing it on per each night.
You gotta put the signs up, just.
Yeah, we're gonna,
the-
yeah,
the-
yeah. We'll get
Say
the,
this flushing
right,
on these days.
Yeah. until we get our valves fixed, which are be coming along. We're gonna start the project, that we have for the valves that are broken now,
Mhm.
start getting those, repaired. Because there's like 10 of them that we need to get done.
So the only other issue I had is the budget.
Hmm.
So, I don't know, I looked at the budget that we got from Karen Summit,
Mhm.
but from Sue Bailey, not
Sue
our,
Bailey, yeah, I've looked at
not
that, yeah.
our in-depth
Right,
breakdown,
Mhm.
but from Sue Bailey, and everything looks good except maintenance expense,
right.
which is.
And we did move, we had Bridget move some of the valves that we did,
Right, the 67,
Right,
that
yeah,
moved from
moved
back
back.
under the.
underneath the maintenance that we had, that was supposed to.
That moved it from maintenance under the article.
Right.
So that's the right move,
Yeah.
but it's still our maintenance expenses, and it's largely the repairs, the distribution, I would guess, although
Yeah,
I haven't seen the
That's
details.
all of it, yeah.
It's running, in aggregate, we're running about $30,000
Mhm.
over
Right.
what our plan is, and that's basically all coming out of that
Mhm.
area. So
Mhm.
we just need to be monitoring it and making sure that we don't.
Hope we don't.
There's no wiggle room.
No.
There's no discretionary. If we can avoid something
Mhm.
without any consequences, then we should
Right.
avoid that expenditure, is my view at this point, because we are.
That's, yeah,
We
we're,
need to
we're,
beef that up.
yeah,
in
For next year.
Right, next year we have.
I mean,
to-
we could have 0 incidences, or we could have another 20
You
incidences.
never know,
all
I
at
mean, the
once.
year before, we had very few.
Right.
No, the year before we got surprises, because we had to move.
Oh, we had
It's the year
extra
before
expense.
that.
Right,
The year before that, we were,
Yeah.
it was a good year. But anyway, it's just, but I don't know, again, this is,
Mhm.
the reports don't seem to be, at least I'm not seeing the reports, hopefully you're seeing the
Yeah,
reports. And, because those reports come from Bridget,
yeah.
essentially. So
Now,
those-
So are you guys gonna be starting budget preview for next year already? I said it's there, we usually start in October.
Yeah, we can, but we,
Start doing some preliminary figures
yeah,
and see where we stand and where we need to increase for next year that we know of.
Yep. and I plan on
And
getting
they can be
the,
tweaked when we get into the first of the year, but if you get
Yeah.
a lot of the work done now,
mhm.
Yeah. Probably start in November. I mean, I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
we
it
should
should be-
let, we
should
should
be-
let the month of October will give us 4 months out of the 12.
It should be a little easier now that you, what, your second, third year into it now.
Yes, if.
Well,
the-
we know what we're, where.
You know where a lot of this, you stand on a lot of the
Yeah.
treatment stuff now.
Right. No,
I
yes.
can't foresee much other than that, the water maintenance line, like, you know,
And that's,
Mark had
that's,
said,
that's as
that's,
predictable as where's that next fire?
yeah, you never know, you never know,
Right.
so.
So
I mean-
where are we with Georgetown? Are they still,
They're,
sending them another bill? 'Cause we-
they've been down, they haven't taken any water because their pump broke, and they had to have a new one brought in, so, they haven't been taking water from us, so, but we're still, you know, we're maintaining the readings, and, Pennachuck will be sending them a bill for what they're using.
Yeah, cause they're on they've reverted to the as-used
Hmm.
price, right? Isn't that
Oh,
what
I
it was?
didn't hear that.
Yeah, they're not using hardly any water at all, they're,
It was only the first couple of months that we had
The bulk deal
yeah. And then we were gonna go to the as-needed basis.
with our, as needed, with our, basically our rates? Is that what we're?
No, we
charging?
had rates that was equal to what the bulk rate was, but we were gonna charge them if they weren't using it.
right,
I think we made the agreement go through November 30th,
hmm,
and then frankly, they're gonna have to figure out what they want.
Well, once you get past November, we're gonna have to decide, it's gonna have to be a different situation up
Yeah,
there, because
because
So
there's
we're
been
gonna heat the
freeze.
house on that, if that's
Yeah.
what we need to do, it's,
right.
but that's their.
But there again, that's another, you know, I mean, for capital improvement, whether it's next year or down the road, working on a joint effort to get something between the two towns and get it installed, so it's a matter of flipping a switch and not having to worry about it. Because those
it's
pumps
definitely
are,
worth looking into.
yeah, those pumps are machinery, and to be really honest with you, they're renting them, and they're probably, you know,
Yeah, no, like I said, we said, that, you know, when everything settles down, and I know I saw the plan from them,
hmm,
and that, I think I'd be happy to sign
Right.
on with them to try and do a
Yeah.
joint thing with the state for that spot, and
hmm.
split the cost about that.
Right.
It's good for them, good for us.
And usually if somebody's putting in a fire pump station or a water booster station and so forth, they usually pay to put it in, and then the municipality takes them over and controls them and operates them and so forth.
You said the state would do it?
Huh?
You said they would put it in.
Yeah, they pay to have the pump station put in and everything, the infrastructure for it and the whole business.
Who would pay for it?
The developer.
We're not talking about a developer, we're talking the town of Georgetown and the town of Rutland.
No, but what I'm saying is that, you were talking about
Oh,
the
back to-
water.
To Coughlin?
Coughlin, yeah.
Oh, no, I wasn't talking about coffee.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I was talking about the little spot on Route 133,
Yeah.
95 that they're trying to
Okay.
work on.
Yeah.
That, no, I'm saying, if we're interested in splitting the
Yeah.
cost of that
Yeah.
with them, so.
Mhm.
That's why I said this, if he ends up putting his pump house in, there will be,
Yeah.
going through town council, there will
Mhm.
be legalese put in that,
Right.
that the town of Rowley is not responsible
Yeah.
for maintaining it.
Hopefully we can get that.
The other way would go much better. And he's willing to spend the extra money, because it's cheaper for him to
Right.
put the pump in. But in the long run, it isn't, because
He's gotta
maintain
maintain
it.
it forever.
Maintain it forever.
Yeah.
And it will only be used in case of fire. That would be just a fire pump.
Mhm. Anything else, Bob?
No, I don't have anything else, we're good.
Minutes?
I've read them.
I read them, read through them this afternoon.
Yeah.
I have no issues.
Vote to approve August 20th minutes.
Seconded.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Vote to approve September 17th minutes.
Seconded.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Ayes have it.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.